Hi, it's Susan from Worldpeacefull. And with this video, I'm not quite sure how it's going to go, as is per usual with my videos, but it's probably going to go slower than some of the videos in the past, because I'm going to go within a lot to see what needs to be expressed at this time. So I'm just going to go still. Feeling is to send love into the world. Love is the healer. These are not just words. Love is the very fabric of space and time. Love is the spaces between the atoms. It is the very substance of who we are. But we have sort of sidelined love and replaced it with many, many different words. We typically avoid the word love unless it's in a romantic context. And yet love is not a romantic anything in actual fact, because love has no need in it. So I am going to slow down in this video. Just going to go really, really still, and I can feel myself feeling tired, which is really good, because I actually want to rest in that. I am putting out an intention for peace as a powerful frequency in our world. It's an overused word. It's a word that gets bandied around. Peace and security, if we're talking the United Nations. You know, we talk about peace plans, the road, the road map to peace. We speak of peace envoys, peace ambassadors, and yet it's highly unlikely that most of them actually have experienced peace in a real sense as something that's expressive through their lives. They have moments of peace, but the real peace for those who are actually awakened to it has no fear in it whatsoever. That's why a peaceful world is, for some, called a utopia, I note. Yet for some, that utopia means having it all my own way. That's not utopia. I'm going to go still on the word utopia for those who are aiming for that. And I know there's a clique out there that is. Utopia. I'm feeling humour, funnily enough, because fools came up, to be honest. And no one can get offended by that because I call myself a peaceful anyway. So utopia. Oh, my yawn. Oh, it's good. The yawning is deeper than tiredness for some reason. It's I'm relaxing. That's why I want this to be a slower video, because I'm going to go deeper into peace in actual fact as I talk about it. And see, joy's immediately there for me, immediately, because that's what peace is. That's why as a clown I was in peace. I can be a clown without the mask too, it doesn't matter. I don't have to wear the makeup, because it's who I am, and it's who you are too, actually. So I want you to, I'm just feeling to reach to you, I want you to be with me as I do this. And even if you're someone who's of an investigative nature, I also want you to be with me as well. We're going to do this together, because it's not about me, it's about you. The peace is not a us or them. It's not we're the realists, you're the peaceniks. It's got nothing to do with any of that illusionary statement. The peace I'm talking about is what you were born with. It's inherent within every single human being, regardless of what activities they've engaged in. So all I'm asking people to do who are watching this is just to be with me, come alongside, we're equal. And I want you to breathe in like I am with peace. I just want you to give it a go, just for the sake of your own sense of calm. We'll put it into that language. So breathing in. Make them deep breaths and breathe it out. And this could be uncertainty. Breathing in. Inspiration that you feel. Breathing out. Dullness. The words conservative came up. Conservative. Oh, we want a low. I love conservatives as well. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Are you breathing you, or are you being breathed? In other words, when you're busy doing whatever you do, who's concentrating on the breathing? You are being breathed. So let's consciously note that. Breathing in. Breathing out. I'm consciously breathing in. Consciously breathing out. Isn't it incredible when you think about the breath? It's oxygen. Where does it come from? The whole planet's full of it. The planet wasn't always having oxygen. We can't live without it. All life forms on this planet were without oxygen in the very beginning. So I want you to become aware of oxygen on the planet, oxygen levels. Oxygen levels are dropping in actual fact, is the feeling I'm having. They're dropping on a lot of levels. Deforestation and plankton, chlorophyll, it's funny, I'm trying to find the words. Photosynthesis, chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the word. Converts carbon into oxygen. Phytoplankton. We're also talking about deforestation. Look at the Amazon. So oxygen levels dropping on the planet is the feeling I'm having. having just done a simple exercise of breathing and the importance of breathing, not only for life, but for centering, for calm. See, I'm moving the hand. Am I moving the hand? It's happening naturally. It's like a tone. It's a rhythm. The whole ecosystem is rhythmic. Breathing in and breathing out, rhythmic. Sexuality, when it fully connects, when it's fully loving, harmonizes in with those high energy systems. Any sort of violence disconnects. Violence disconnects from who you are. Always. I'm just going to go into that for a moment. Sense I have is there's a focus on the taking, not the giving. There's also guilt. At a higher level, there is a guilt there. What you do to another, you do to yourself. No exceptions. You may think that you're separate, but you're not. In reality, you're not. Nobody is separate. We appear to be separate, but we're not energetically. We're all connected. Now, when we transition across from this life into the next, every single experience we've had in our life will be shown to us. And not only will you be shown the experience that you've had in your life as your life flashing before your eyes, that's what they often state, you're also going to be shown those others that you connected with in your life. You're going to know their thoughts and you're going to feel the experience. I'm feeling to talk to perpetrators. I want to breathe in, breathe out because I want them to feel some peace. I'm actually going to talk to you. I'm noticing the pain in the perpetrators, and that pain gets projected out to the other party who becomes what we call the victim. But the common denominator is pain in both parties. This is what creates what we call the metaphorical darkness. This is the absence of love. And without doubt, it's the absence of peace too. So I'm going to go still. We're talking overall about peace. We're slowing down. We're feeling a stillness. But I'm also talking now with those who are perpetrating crimes or are blocking things from coming to light. In all perpetration, there is an unconsciousness. You could even say a form of a block or a barrier to what they do. They know not what they do, a teacher once taught. They know not what they do. That's the same as saying, I don't know that I don't know. It's important to understand that we have many lives. There is natural justice, definitely. Whether we experience the rebalancing, because all justice is the balancing of the scales. It doesn't even necessarily have to mean you get justice in this lifetime, in respect of if you're a person who's been victimized and you're seeking justice. Some of those ones who feel powerless within the judicial system, who feel their complaints are not heard, who feel that there's protection happening for those who have created these crimes and had them covered. There is natural justice which rebalances, and the language I'm using is the accurate language. It rebalances. There is no punishment from a higher perspective, in the sense that I'm going to make you feel the pain I felt. Because all that does is continue the cycle of abuse, which is what is being examined during these times. These times are flushing up the culture of abuse that's been in existence, that's kept power in check. Checkmate just came up, which is chess. The king in the castle, queen in the castle, castling. So I'm seeing castles. Hiding. The castle comes in to swap with the queen so that the queen's protected. Because chessboard is a good one to have a look at. You've got your bishops and your knights, and they're all protecting the queen. The king is of a lesser status to the queen. The queen has far more power, interestingly enough. So I want to go back to perpetrators and breathing and peace. Same words. What you do to another returns to the self. Again, the feeling is I and another are one. What you do to another, you're doing to yourself. Typically, from a higher perspective, it's really articulating that everybody is an aspect of everybody else, and what we see in each other is an aspect of ourselves. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to see it. I see as I am, not as you are. Always. It's called projection. We project onto one another, but we think it's true. This is why the work of Byron Katie is very important for the perpetrators. Perpetrators who are perpetrating crimes against humanity are guided to go to Byron Katie and question your thinking. It's going to help you on a number of levels. Firstly, it's going to drop the lies that one has told oneself in order to feel good about actions that are not serving the other party. But it's also to help release from the guilt, which is part of the reason these crimes are being blocked. People don't want to confront the accuser. They don't want to be seen as the perpetrator, particularly those in high positions. They need healing. There's great fear around them right now because they're trying to shut down awareness around certain areas. But what it does is it stunts our growth. So even if I just shift consciousness from the perpetrators and just go to everybody, whenever we deny, avoid, suppress, repress, oppress something, it's an aspect of ourselves which is fearful, which does not want to look. But rather than become conscious and go, you know what, it's me that's doing this because I can't face what's happened here. Or I want to continue with what I'm doing. I don't want to be held to account. I want to reframe it so that it feels good for me to continue on a trajectory that may well be harming another. These are the sort of the mental games we play in order to continue with cultures of abuse. And I bring it out into the general population as well because we're all mirrors. We're all connected. In this higher perspective, there is no them and us. There is only the one, which is us. Forgiveness is to know that there are elements of that in everyone. But we live in a world of great punishment, great pain, really pinching off the love that everybody needed as children. Most people have not grown up with appropriate love, which is why we've got a lot of distortions happening in the world, why there's a lot of violence. The violence is a call for help, and it occurs because people are enraged and they're projecting, or they're trained to desensitize in order to commit acts of violence. And then they'll be informed that there's a greater good taking place. In a higher perspective, there is no circumstances in which we would harm another. Not one. People might say, well, what if your family's being attacked? This is high perspective I'm speaking from, which is no, you would only, as I explained to someone today, you stay in the presence of love. It doesn't mean you're condoning these actions. It doesn't mean that you are being weak. You're simply staying in alignment with the power in the life. And the real power of this world is actually love. The fear that people are feeling, or the anger or the violence that's generating, is coming from great fear. In the higher perspective, they say that fear is false evidence appearing real. It's funny, I've just felt pulled to go back to utopia. Isn't that interesting? I'm just feeling it. Okay, I'll go back to utopia. I wonder what that's got to do with it. But anyway, let's have a look. They're aiming for utopia. Okay. Yeah, I actually do know why that guy just got pulled there. That's the denial. So they're saying I don't need to say who, doesn't really matter. Let's just say there is a movement seeking utopia. The promised land comes to mind. I've got thoughts in my mind about the actual names, but I'm just going to leave it out for the moment. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter. It's the ones who are seeking out this utopia. So what is utopia? Promised land comes up again. This is the place of great peace, funnily enough. It's where they'll be happiest. It's going to be utopia. There's no hassle. This is your perfection. Another word could be heaven on earth, but this is not heaven on earth. This is utopia. The certain feeling that I get with utopia is it's a place where you don't have to worry about all that other stuff. It's kind of when we drift off for a moment to our happy place. And then, oh God, we've got to get back to the real world, and that's the hard part. So they're pushing for a utopia. But what they're not understanding is that they have to develop it within the self first. Utopia for realists is coming to me. It's like they're almost oxymorons, those two statements, the utopia and the realist. The realist tends to be the grounded, well, they're not really grounded. Hang on, I need to go still on realism. Realist. What's a realist? They see themselves as real, as practical. They disconnect emotionally from things because they're realists. We've got to get the job done. We're not idealists. We're not sitting here with platitudes, doing poetry and having this sort of glossy worldview. We're down-to-earth realists. We get the job done, but we disconnect our emotions from it so we can be ruthless. Realists can be also ruthless. They're seeing clearly. They see boxes, structures, planning. I'm a realist. Can't be soft on that. We've got to go hard on this. Got to be real. Stop pussyfooting, get on with it. You've got to put those things, park those emotions to the side. We're not interested. Just move forward. Keep moving forward. That's a common theme, moving forward. So it's kind of pushing for a utopia. That in itself is also an erroneous coupling. You can't push utopia. Utopia is not something you can make happen. Now, I want to go still on that because that needs explaining. It's a little bit like, this is my goal. My goal, let's just use this example, is to be successful. I'm going to make lots of money. I'm going to be a millionaire. Maybe I'm a billionaire. My goal is to reach that. And that's a very happy thought for me. It's like, if I can reach that goal, I'm getting there. A lot of people are carrying these ideas of being rich and thinking that's where it's all at. It's a little bit like, we're going to make utopia happen, and it's going to come in this format. Everything's going to be controlled in that world so that I feel stress-free. Those ones pushing it are actually in pain. I've even seen some of their eyes, and I know from looking into the eyes, I can tell they're in pain. And they're thinking that if we can just get this locked in place. Some words also come up in terms of, we do not ask permission. We take what we want. Immediately the words for me come up, boys take, men give. So take it on board, and it's to do with maturity. The giving is coming from a base of real abundance, wealth. That's the real wealth. It's an inner state. A poor person can be extremely wealthy. So they could be materially poor, but spiritually rich. And that's often actually the case. It's the irony of it. There can also be great poverty and great misery within that. There can be great wealth and great misery. I've seen it. I've worked with some wealthy people, and they were not happy. So these things are all, we're all equal in truth, in the sense that we're all going through life experiences as human beings. We go in one way and we go out the other. We're same, but different. And you can label it this way or that, but ultimately we are the same species who've created in our conceptual reality a belief system that we have not questioned, and unconsciously we push forward. So going back to utopia, because that's where I'm going with this, and I'm also holding on to peace and also the breathing in and the breathing out, because I'm feeling they're not calm. They're not in touch with their essential selves. So this video is for them too. It's like, it's not. I'm not going to sit in judgment because I don't believe in any of that. Although momentarily I do, being human, slip into it. But I can slip myself back out and remember that We're all on journeys. Maybe next life they're the peacemaker. They might be. So let's just sit with it now, because I'm seeking to send peace in this way. See, I feel the love immediately for them. And I feel they know who I'm talking about too. I do feel they know. Funnily enough, I'm at the Pyramid of Giza. I'm just going to go there as well. I saw blocks. These are actually really heavy blocks too. People don't know how those blocks constructed the pyramids, because we've taken them a lot longer by hand. There are some schools of thought that say that they were not actually constructed in the way that people think. I just want to go to Egypt, because there seems to be a lot of mythology coming out of Egypt. People really get into Egypt. I mean, I've been there, and I felt drawn to go there too. Okay, so let's go to Egypt. I see the capstone immediately. In those days, in the beginning, it was, I think they were silver, all of them. Coating, there was coating over that pyramid. It's not what we see today. Chambers. The feeling is that there's a desire to recreate a civilization that's advanced. The seeking of power can get very distorted. See, the words power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely is absolutely true. Because the minute you take power from someone, remember, boys take, men give, boys take. See, and what I mean metaphorically by that, I'm not talking about young boys, I'm talking about men that are boys. In other words, they haven't matured into men. They may not have gone through really good role modelling from fathers. So I don't say that as a disparaging comment, but they've been taught to take, and the economic system encourages the taking, not the giving, which weakens the man. It weakens him because his inner state becomes one of poverty that needs more. Your inner state is what really matters here. It's not the outer state. The outer state is the outcome of the inner state. So if you've been trained to keep taking and taking more riches, and of course in the pyramids they had a lot of riches, and the Vatican comes to mind as well. Stored things, a lot of jewelry, a lot of wealth. People did that to give them things for the afterlife, because the pyramids were really about this chamber in preparation for this outer life. It's not an outer life, it's a beyond human life. So they're dying. These were chambers where they were mummified, prepared. Riches were all around them, so they had things. They even gave them food and wine so that when they did the journey, transitioning into the next lifetime, they had everything with them. Not that they needed anything, they didn't. But that's just the primitive nature of those who are believing that these things are necessary. The physical things are necessary, they're not. So the theme is a civilization that's wanting to be created, or there is a desire for the creation of a civilization that's advanced and it's admired and it's powerful. and it's in control. It's very abundant or rich. Abundance is different. The utilisation of words is very important. Abundance tends to be inner abundance in the way I understand it. So those wanting this new civilization have done some reading on ancient civilizations. There's been stories that have been told. And in the telling of the stories, things get bigger, and there's also the idea of knowledge being passed from one to the other. Sacred knowledge. Keys. Keystone. I remember when I flew into Cairo, and I was firstly stunned at the size of it. But I always remember coming in over the top of the pyramids, and it was like, well, I could certainly see them. I wasn't over the top, but I was banking, and I saw them. And as soon as I saw them, I just went, they're not from here. Immediately. They're not human-made. That was my feeling. I was stunned. Beautiful, geometric shapes. And they say they're actually designed in the constellation of Orion. I've written a poem about that, and I should really attach it to this video. Because when I went round the pyramids on a camel, I always laugh, Michael Jackson was over the camel. I don't know if that's a good thing anymore. Anyway, it was amusing at the time. And I did remember my poem, Encryption of a New Earth, Encryption. The crypt, inner crypt, ion, energy. And it was really amazing. You know, there was a point on the journey where all I could see was sand. I couldn't see Cairo. And I felt myself go back thousands of years. It was really interesting because I hadn't planned to do a camel ride around the pyramids. I didn't even see myself as a tourist. I saw myself as needing to just be near them. I just wanted to be near them and feel them. And as it turned out, the person who was trying to sell me things, good luck with that one, he dropped his price for me. He saw tears in my eyes too. I had an emotional feeling. It wasn't as powerful as I had at Chichen Itza, which was in Mexico. That was another pyramid. In that situation, I fell to my knees and I cried, and I had no idea why. So I think we're all connected. You know how I said before that we're not separated, we're all part of the one. And if we're that one energy, that one consciousness, then it's permeated all space and time, clearly. So we are all of it. So it's not like I'm more special than anyone else because I had these experiences. It's probably just more that in that particular moment I awakened to an aspect of what has been, we can say in the past, but certainly consciousness has no future and past. It's actually all happening in the one moment. So who are we all? It's like one can say I'm at this and you can say I'm at that, and you can look upon the masses and think of them in that way. But we're actually the one energy, and that's why what I said in the beginning was what you do to another returns to the self. And see, I can feel myself being inspired again around the healing for those perpetrators, which every human being at some point has been, if there's no past, no future. So I'm taking us into a space here which people can go, what? Isn't it all linear time? And look at the clock, clearly time is moving. Well, bodies are moving around the sun, and we get the impression of night and day because of the rotation of the planet, which is orbiting a bigger body. And obviously there's a trajectory around that, and there's a timing. It appears to be a timing because change appears to be happening as a result of movement. So let's just say that time is movement. Something magnetic, energetic is moving in an elliptical fashion for millions and millions of years within what we call a solar system. So this is kind of giving us a little bit of perspective to explode out of the box, to say that things can be questioned outside of what we believe is true. And even with evidence base, even with validation from those who one would call their peers in academia, and we all go, well, that's the authority, we just adhere to that. That may well be wrong, depending on the way one's chosen to set up the investigation of something. Looking at it from another angle could produce completely different results. But we've all been educated a certain way, and we see as a result of that programming. Imagine you had no programming. What would you see? And that's when it gets interesting, because consciousness then is open to possibility. This is why there's statements made about infinite possibility. It's a relaxation into an openness that discounts nothing. So even in respect of how one defines oneself, even that's not true. So I feel again pulled back to the breathing. Breathe in, breathe out. Now the breathing, if you do it enough and you concentrate on the upper lip, you will find that the brain will switch off. And this is the program that's happening in here. It's the neural networks that have all been hardened into, that's why you get rigid thinking, is people who have just said, I've been taught this way, that's the way it is. You're doing my head in when you're coming at it with another angle. I just want to stay with the program because I'm comfortable in the program. Same thing applies for doing the right thing. I'm comfortable in doing the right thing because if I don't do the right thing, it feels uncomfortable. And always when you jump out of a program, it's like jumping a track. It feels uncomfortable, always. And that's how you know you're kicking goals, when it gets uncomfortable, because you can't just relax back into the track. You see, you're jumping into something new. This is the leading edge of infinite possibility that you start to jump into. So people like whistleblowers, for example, are the ones who have jumped out of the program. And then others in the program, like white blood cells, come rushing in. Not the Russians, oh, they may do. They come rushing in to around that foreign body because it feels like it's, in our terminology, it could be called the enemy, or it's a threat. It's a threat would be a better word, because it might upset the program. What if others start replicating that thought? This is your virus type scenario, it's your cancer type scenario. What if it gets replicated and more get on board? We want them all separated. Isolate them. That's what fear does, because the track is being jumped. The track that's being jumped could be bringing to light perpetrators. I don't typically like to label people, but I'm only doing it for the sake of communication, because nobody is hard and fast a perpetrator and nobody is hard and fast a victim either. There are many, many things. But that darker element, let's say, is being brought into the light by those who have experienced the state of victimhood, if you like, or by those who are great believers in truth. They come forward because they see something is not right. They see that something has not been reported, that there is one rule for this group, another rule for another, and they feel compelled to speak up. And there can often be ramifications in a world that has normalized violence. So again, breathing in and breathing out. So that scenario is happening within the body of humanity. So it because we're all connected, it actually is what we do to another comes back to the self. So when you harm another, you are actually harming yourself spiritually, definitely. Ultimately, you pass over into the next life, and the Egyptian pyramids come to my mind. Isn't it interesting? And you will be shown quick flashes of what happened from all sides. No one can avoid that, deny that. No one can get a lawyer to shut it down. When you pass over into the next life, you will be shown in that transitory period, very quickly, life flashes before your eyes, and it will. For those who believe in heaven and hell, my understanding, and this is just my perspective, is that there is no hell unless you believe it. In fact, the hell often exists here on the planet for those who are either going through the trauma of having been in that state of being persecuted. They can spend their whole lives trying to work out, trying to heal from terrible things, from memories, PTSD. I just want to go into the state of the ones who are the victims. Waking up during the night, they can't stop thinking about it. Comes in flashes too. They get triggered. There's a sense of betrayal in those speaking up nowadays. There's a feeling of betrayal by their own society as well. They feel they've been let down, that this is wrong, what happened, and no one is supporting them. And that's driving disclosure. There's also karmic situations as well, because we live on. So I talked about Egypt, and sometimes people will find that they've had connections. I can't stop. I met someone the other day who said, I think about Egypt a lot when I was young. I was thinking, yeah, she probably had a past life there. That's what I'm saying. There is also rebalancing happening in this lifetime, and people go, oh, we don't live on. We do. We do. I've seen an apparition, but I know we do. When I travelled, as I said, I had those feelings when I was in those places. I knew I've had a connection somehow. I don't remember what that is, but most definitely, and those watching this video would have as well. There will be something that I absolutely guarantee everyone watching this has had deja vu at some point. You go, I just know that. I've been here before. Or something interesting has happened. So we all go through it. There's nothing unique in it. But we often don't talk about it, that's all. So the whistleblowers are the leading edge. They're kind of like the pioneers. They're kind of they're changing the track of where we're going. And they won't be shut down. They might attempt to shut them down, but they won't be shut down. Even if one is removed, another one will come. And then another one, and then another one. As the edifice starts to crumble. And that's what's actually happening right now, is things are breaking down. And that's meant to be because the people want it to break down on a deeper level, because they don't like what they're realizing nowadays, what's going on. It's coming into the light. Feel to send healing to the perpetrators, the ones who are carrying within themselves the knowledge that they have harmed another. I'm sending peace. And the feeling is to come clean, purity, purification. The only purification that can happen is when you speak the truth. Truth is not to be feared. Truth is actually a portal to higher understanding. And I feel the Egyptian pyramids again, or the Egyptian period in time. Purification was what those rituals were about. Purification is coming clean. Feeling clean is, I just want to go into that for a moment. There's no guilt being carried. The coming clean, or the washing away of these dark experiences, can only occur through the truth. The truth is what sets you free. This is not a cliche. Now, that doesn't mean that things won't come around you. They might. But on an inner level, you'll feel a lot better, because what was held within as a secret, this is where the secret societies come in, them too. What was held as a secret can be quite a burden. So the coming clean is the speaking of truth one way or the other, even if you're approaching the person whom you harmed and speaking the truth to that other about why that happened, and making peace with them. That is the coming clean. That's the purification. Peace is purification. And it will remove the burden. The burden is the word that I feel. It's like sitting on your shoulders, very heavy. It's also the fear of being seen. But you know, there's a respect in people speaking the truth and doing it of their own volition. There's a respect. There will be vilification around it, but the coming clean, there'll be an acceptance within of, okay, I have to go through this. And that's where we clear the karma. Unconditional love is the only way you can clear karma. And Certainly some say that karma does not exist, but the way I guess I'm expressing it is more that as a rebalancing. I see it as a rebalancing. It's not like I had to live this life because I'd done something in a past life. It's nothing like that in my view. It's more to do with rebalancing. See, the peace is not holier than thou. The real peace is about purely balance. It's balance. It's equality. There's a strength in that pyramid. That's why it was built the way it was built, was to harness the strength of equality on all sides. It's a geometric symmetry that harnesses within the design is great strength, not power. The power gets distorted by the ego that needs to have more and wants to feel powerful. It can also be lineages too. And again, I feel no blame in what's been passed on has been passed on. You don't know what you don't know. But I guess the purpose of videos like this is really to say that, is to awaken to the knowing that you don't know, which can change everything. That's the beginning of wisdom. These were wisdom teachings at these times. It wasn't about power, it was about strength. And the strength is not physical strength. It's a spiritual strength that you cannot get when you commit violence. You cannot get that strength, ever. You can only realize it through a form of purification. Because enlightenment is really the light body getting lighter. That's all it is. And that enlightenment can only come through purification. Purification, as I said before, is confronting things in a truthful way with great courage. It can be incredibly hard to confront oneself because then you feel weakened, and that's where the fear sits. I feel weakened if I acknowledge this problem. But in actual fact, the more you face the truth, the more strengthened you become, and things will unfold as is the life plan. There's nothing to fear but fear itself, which is false evidence appearing real. Just want to go still for a moment. Well, I'll just report what is coming to my mind. It's the all-seeing eye, interestingly enough. That was staying with me, and I didn't really want to go there. It's not that I'm afraid to go there. I'm not really. It's just more, what do I want to say about that? And I just want to go still on that because it was sort of sitting there. I saw it as God, actually, immediately. How's that? See how fast that came? I did see God immediately. Or whatever you perceive this higher power to be. I don't mind. Call it that, call it something else. It doesn't matter. It's an energy, an awareness, and it's inherent within everything. So they use the symbol of the all-seeing eye. The third eye would be the mystics. I just want to kind of go still on it and get a feeling for it. What is it really? It's consciousness. That's what it is. I didn't know that until this minute. Okay, so the all-seeing eye, of course, it's consciousness. Sort of makes sense, doesn't it? I probably have known that. It's awareness. Everybody's wanting to see more. In the physical life, of course, there's great limits around all of that because we're in a physical life, having an experience at a certain perspective. No one can harness that, no matter who they are. They can't. But when you transition over, then you become one with the ocean. It's funny, what are you on? I'm getting a lot of that feeling too in this particular video. That's relaxation. So relaxation is another key theme here. Relax. No rush to utopia. There's actually nowhere to go. It's actually within you. It's not your mythical place that you've read in books where you want to recreate it on the earth. It's always been inherent within us. Some call it utopia. What could it be called? Promised land. See, that comes up again. It's coming up. Paradise is another word. I'll say the word Zion. Zion is the other word. But there'll be many more. These are just a few that have come up in my consciousness. So the feeling to say here is that it's actually inside you. You don't actually need to recreate it. I mean, things will create. But if you're looking at it as a place for us and not for them, a divided scenario, the utopia can't possibly exist, you see, because utopia is based on unity. Utopia is when we've made peace with all of it. That's why I'm saying it's an inner state, not an outer state. So the moment we divide off from someone else or other groups, or we judge these as less deserving, these as more deserving, the moment you do that, you lose your utopia immediately. Because utopia is not a them and an us. It's not an island where it's all perfect and everyone else can make their own way. Because we're all connected is the reason for that. What you do to another comes back to the self. It's energy response in our reality. And you know that that's true because what you put out does come back, and we see that. You know, someone might have done something many years ago and then it comes back at them. Always things come back. So wouldn't it be wiser to perhaps be very mindful of these sort of pushing forward towards this utopia and then saying, well, I don't need permission. I can do whatever I want. Well, you may well choose that path and say, okay, I don't need permission. I'm just going to take what I want. I will breach privacy. I will gather data, whatever it is. I will create this utopia in my image, and you can't do anything about it because we're going to weaken you. You could take that view. But the moment you see the other, utopia is gone. Because utopia is an integration. It's an integration of the opposites who perceive themselves as opposite. When it integrates, there is no opposite. Unconditional love is the same thing as integration. And what that means is I love under all conditions. there is no condition that pinches off whom I love. I love all of it, because that higher perspective, which is the actual experience of utopia, the oneness, the unity consciousness, because it's all consciousness, no matter where you are physically, it doesn't matter. Your inner state can't fake it, no matter what you pretend. The utopia will always feel like peace. I'm at peace now. And some think that they can create these gated types of cities where only those who comply will be able to live in that utopia. Those who don't comply will be marginalised. But the reality is, the moment I go us and them, I've lost utopia. It will never manifest. It can't manifest. It's against universal laws, you see. And as I said with the pyramid, it's a geometric, symmetrical shape, and it's not about power, it's about strength. The strength is on the basis of the equality. The equality is what gives it strength. So for those who believe equality of outcome is undesirable, have lost their equality. They've become unequal. In the moment they've announced equality of outcome, and I don't know what that means in respect of strength. Well, the outcome of equality is strength. The chambers represented the inner state. These were portals to prepare for the next life in the pyramids. So those who were perceived as pharaohs, people of great status, let's say, go through the same portal as the slave did, whom they, mythology has said, have built the pyramids. And of course there were slaves in Egypt at that time. Still are. But the perceived slave goes through the exact same experience of passing from the physical into the non-physical and experiencing the life flashing and experiencing, some have described it as the tunnel. It's a light tunnel to the end there. And those whom they relate to, they may meet. And each is shown that these were the things that you went through in this lifetime. What do you think about that? People go into what they call the Akashic records and they investigate their lives. So it's an awakening is what happens through those portals. And it's a little bit like the little baby, the little child, has a certain consciousness around life, toys and wonder and noticing everything, learning, growing, developing. And then you've got the fully grown adult who's been around the world, done everything. They're two different states of consciousness. And it's not to say even necessarily that the child's consciousness is less than the adult's consciousness. They're different states of consciousness. It's probably not the exact right analogy in respect of from the human plane to the, transitioning across. But it's just really trying to demonstrate, if you like, that idea of we only know what we know in certain states of consciousness. The knowing of which would change everything is a literal statement. Once I know, I can't unknow. Once you pass through the portal and you recognise you're one with all of it, that's it. That becomes your reality. You can't unlearn it. That's the same thing as the camel passing through the eye of the needle. And people will say, well, that's not possible. But the point of that metaphor is, well, they're saying in that particular case, it's a biblical reference, is, the idea of a camel passing through the eye of a needle is the same as a rich man heading into heaven. Well, no, that's not actually true. Everyone goes through the same portal. I tend to interpret that camel through the eye of the needles more to do with the impossibility of it being able to pass through when I see it as possible. I'm just going to go still for a moment, and then I should really finish. I'm over an hour again. Easy peasy. Many of those who are wanting to create the utopia at this time are very old people. They're getting close to passing over. This is a very, very good time for them to look into the truth of their lives before they transition. Because what will happen is, if you haven't made peace with what you've done, you will have to come back and you have to try again. You don't leave the hamster wheel, you don't leave it. What do they call it? Well, the karmic. I guess they call it the karmic wheel. Keeps turning. But if you come clean, if you purify, if you find the strength through equality, which means you are my equals. Money's irrelevant. It's irrelevant completely. When you go over to the other side, you don't need a credit card. There will be no bitcoins. There'll be no, pay wave. Doesn't exist on the other side. And that's where many of these older ones now are going, and who have burdens sitting on their shoulders. The breathing was sent to you to remind you to breathe in and out and to find the inner peace and make peace with these experiences that you've gone through in your life. And you can do that through purification. The purification is the truth sets you free, and unconditional love is to love under all conditions, inclusive of yourself. Forgiveness of self enables you then to be able to go to that other party who you hurt, their families as well, and say, how can I get this right? How can I do this right for you? I've come to the realization that what I did to you hurt you, and I want to make this right. This is how we rebalance. The universe instantly knows the moment you go to that other and say, I'm very sorry, and I really want to make it right. What can I do? What do you need? That's where peace starts. This is the real peace process. And that other might cry, that other might get angry. Whatever comes out of that other, they need to express, because that's part of their healing. And if you can be like that triangle, that pyramid, the all-seeing eye, strength, if you can stand amongst your critics in a state of peace, that means the purification, the enlightenment is happening for you. Because we're all one. We're not actually separate. And if this video has come to you, I would definitely say that there's a reason for that, because there's no mistakes. So that seems to be the reason why I did this video, was on the breathing, was on the perpetrators who are carrying the huge burdens, who want to step into that new, that they're going across into the next world very soon. These are the older ones who have carried burdens around things that they've kept as secrets in secret societies. So this is really an offering to release that burden and make peace with those you know that you have harmed or their families. And what will happen is, as you release them from their burden, your burden will start to release. Because what you do to another or for another comes back to the self always. And remember what I said about utopia. The moment that you say, we're going to have a utopia, but you're not, we're dividing from you, we're going to create this place, you either comply or you don't, we're not asking permission, we're going ahead and we're going to push this utopia. The moment you do that, it's gone. It's not possible under universal law, because utopia is the integration. It's the integration of those opposites, those perceived opposites. They're not real opposites. They're just perceived. We're all equal. We come into this life through the same way and we leave the life the same way. So those are the key messages that I'm sharing with you. And with that, I send you love and great peace, illumination and enlightenment. And know that the truth will set you free. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'm sending great love. Bye.